Well, good morning. How are you all today? I'm putting this up on both channels, Integrated Preparedness and American Reversion. So welcome to both of you. Welcome to all of you on both channels. Welcome to all the new people, by the way. We have new people joining on each of the channels. And I want to say right up front here that if you are new to me and this channel, I have a tendency not to make videos like other channels. I don't immediately jump into the subject. I don't jump up and down and yell and tell you how horrible things you are. I'll address the subject that I want to talk about, and then I will flesh it out. I will explain why we're going there, why I'm doing that, and come to the final message that I want to give out. I understand that's almost like a sermon, right? You go to church and the preacher's up there and he's saying, he's talking and telling a story and this and that, and then you go, where's he going with this? And finally he gets to the end, and there you have it. And I have to admit that I'm much like that, and maybe it's the preacher in me. I don't know. For whatever reason, I like to cover these subjects in a good amount of depth. Okay, so that's fair warning, and if that's for you, it's great to have you here, and if it's not for you, there are plenty of others who do it differently. This is one, and the question here is, well, I was going to make it a question, but I'm going to make it a statement. The question originally was going to be, should you prepare for a draft? And the answer is yes, and so the statement of this video is you should prepare for a draft. Now, why do I say that? I'll tell you what's precipitated this immediately. Now, this is one that I've been wanting to do and meaning to do for a while, but it just didn't seem to fit in. And until today, when I read an item out of Britain, and I will say, maybe I should go back and say why I've been wanting to do this one. I just put up a video. I'm not sure if I've put it on both channels. I know I put it on the Patreon of American Reversion, and I will do it also on Integrated Preparedness, because this is what it's all about. Several months ago, I went to and it's a recording, a beautiful recording, one of the most beautiful songs about one of the saddest situations, and it's called "Tell My Father." And several months ago, I went to a concert, a choir concert. My daughter was in one of the choirs, and I've been going to these concerts for the last quite a few years, since Aiden, my oldest, was in the choirs. And every year they sing a song called "Tell My Father," and the message, the story of the song. It's the story. It's essentially a young Civil War soldier who has been killed, but he's singing to his father. And he's saying, "Tell my father this and that and the other thing," messages to his father. And it is beautiful, and it is poignant, and it is sad, and it is it illustrates so many things that we are raised. Well, I'm going to get back to that, okay? But every time I heard that, the first time I ever heard that song, I just started crying, and I cry every time I hear it. It doesn't matter, and I will sit there. This last year, I sat there in the audience, and when they started this, boy, it just came, and I didn't care. I didn't try to hide it. I didn't care if anybody saw me or not. If they had seen me, good. Maybe it'll make them wonder why that fool over there was crying, and maybe it'd make them ask me about it. And nobody did, but I've been happy to tell them. And I'm going to tell you here in a couple of minutes. And even when I was putting this up, when I was getting ready to post those, I listened to it again. I will never, I used to get teary when I'd hear the national anthem. It had been a while since that. But I don't know I'll ever hear this song without getting emotional. So let me explain to you, and I'm going to get back to that, but what precipitated this today? And this is a story out of U.S. News and World Reports, and who would be exempt from conscription if we went to war with Russia? Now, this is an article out of Great Britain. But the reason that this is important is because where Europe and our government drug us into the First World War. If you think it was about the sinking of the Lusitania, you need to dig deeper. Europe and our government drug us into World War II. If you think it was about the bombing, the Japanese bombing of Pearl Harbor, you need to dig deeper and find out the truth. It goes so much more beyond that. And Europe and our government are dragging us into another war. Well, yeah, we got wars going on all over the place, but it looks like this could go to a third big one that's going to potentially drag your sons, daughters, grandsons, granddaughters into it through conscription. Let me get back. Somebody will say, "Oh, they haven't drafted anybody since 1975." And they're not going to, and they couldn't, and the logistics would be horrible and all that. I'll get to that in just a second. I want to read you this story. Britain's top military brass this week suggested that civilians may be conscripted to join the armed forces in an event that a war breaks out with Russia. Well, what are they trying to do? What do you mean if a war breaks out with Russia? They've been trying to start a war with Russia for a long time, right? So have we. That's like saying, that's like going up and punching somebody over and over and over again and says, boy, if he hits me, it's on. Okay? So this is the typical government BS that we've dealt with for over a century. Okay? Well over a century. Clear back before that war in northern aggression. In a speech yesterday, General Sir Patrick Sanders said that the UK was woefully under-equipped to fight an all-out war, and said the government may need to mobilize the nation and start training a civilian army. That's where your sons and daughters come in. Now, for those people who want to serve in the military, good for you. It's an honorable profession, and I hope that you do well, and I pray for you, as I have all of my friends who have served, since the 60s. So that if it's something that's someone's choice, good. It's honorable, and we wish the best for them as they serve our nation properly. Well, we wish the best for them no matter what, okay? But they're too often used improperly, and that's where the problem comes in. And if you haven't read this little pamphlet, War is a Racket, by Smedley Darlington Butler, you need to. Okay, war is a racket. Rich man's war, poor man's fight. Okay, the rich want to get richer, so they start a war and they send all the underlings out there to fight the war. So let's continue to see what this general says. The general previously claimed Britain was facing a 1937 moment, referring to the 2 years preceding the Second World War. See, they're preparing for this. Forget that this is Great Britain. Realize what's starting there is coming here. In his speech, Sir Patrick said Britain must be able to credibly fight and win wars on land, and could not rely on its navy and air power for success. Okay, well, I'm not sure that I agree with that. We are living in a technological age. But of course, the guys that command the land troops, they want to involve all. Who's calling me? Okay. They want to involve themselves because that means more rank for them, right? We need an army designed to expand rapidly to enable the first echelon, resource the second echelon, and train and equip the citizen army that must follow. Didn't say might follow, must follow. They're preparing the British people for a draft. You had better take that seriously. It's coming. You had better prepare for it. I'm going to tell you how in a minute. I'm going to tell you a little bit. Okay. Within the next 3 years, it must be credible to talk of a British army of 120,000 folding in our reserve and strategic reserve. But this is not enough, he says. This is not enough. You remember, back in Vietnam, A lot of guys joined the National Guard so they wouldn't be drafted and sent to Vietnam. And then, of course, there were some Guard units that were sent to Vietnam, but not nearly as much as has been used in the GWAT, wherever they want to call up people now. And I just saw something that just made my blood boil not long ago. It was some deployment ceremony to where they were getting ready to send a bunch of our youngins over there across the world, tearing them out of their families and sending them who knows where to do, who knows what. Here again, it's not the military that I have the problem with. It is the civilian, the government controlling this. And I'm familiar with that saying that so many use, is that when I signed up, I wrote a blank check to the American people, up and including my life. Yes, well, not really. You signed it to the American government, and you need to distinguish between the people and the government, and the will of the people and the will of the government. And I would not sign a blank check to this government. And I think I would just suggest you think very carefully about that. So his words echo those of Defense Secretary Grant Shapps, who said in a speech last week that the world is moving from a post-war, now get this, post-war to a pre-war world, and the UK must ensure its entire defense ecosystem is ready to defend its homeland. Do you remember? Now they actually did, defend their homeland in World War II, but you remember what was told the American people why we needed to get into World War II? We need to defend our country from the Germans and from the Axis powers and from the Nazis and all this stuff. Because, boy, if we didn't fight them over there, we were going to have to fight them here, and we'd all be speaking German. And that was the biggest bunch of hogwash there is. There was. There were no designs on the part of Germany to come over and take over America. Here's where we get into treaties, okay? The problem with treaties. George Washington warned us about a number of things. He warned us about political parties. He warned us about treaties with other countries, and he warned us about the dangers of a standing army. Okay. Although the government has since denied planning to conscript the public, yes, of course, because you see what they're doing here. They're throwing out different things to see how it plays with the people. Well, we're talking conscription. Let's see if people get upset, or if they just, go along like the sheep they are and go, well, okay. But then they'll come out and say, well, we denied that. We're not going to do that, to give them cover in case anybody comes, because they know there's going to be some people standing up in case that's not right. You can't, well, no. We're not going to do that. We've already denied that. Okay. It's the game they play. When asked whether the Prime Minister agreed with Sir Patrick's assessment that the public could be drafted to wage war against Russia, Rishi Sunak's official, that's their Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak. Official spokesman today said no. Well, see, that's the spokesman. So put as much faith as in that statement as you do in what is this ridiculous press secretary's name, who I don't even remember. I don't watch enough news to remember. I watch enough to know what's right, what's going on. Well, press secretaries, right? Pressed on whether the PM could rule out conscription in future circumstances, the spokesman replied, now get this Jello-like answer, there is no suggestion of that. The government has no intention to follow through with that right. The British military has a proud tradition of being a voluntary force. There are no plans to change that. Yes, except when they need people. Right? It's voluntary except when we need people, kind of like the American military. Well, we got a war going on, or we want to make money. We need people to fight that war so that we can make more money. Let's put in a draft. Okay, I'll put this, as I always do, when I put this video up on the Patreon channels, I'll include that. Now, here's my getting back to what originally made me want to make this, is my feeling about conscription and what that that song, Tell My Father, was about. I was raised, like many of you were, if you're of my age or more, to believe that giving one's life for a higher purpose, dying in a foreign land, with nobly holding the flag, or doing something, was like the epitome of what I should be striving for, what I should be looking for. I grew up on movies like, Bo-Jest and all of those kinds of things. My father fought in World War II in Europe. My grandfather fought in World War I in Europe. So it was just one of those things that I accepted. Young men of that age and of that generation were brought up to believe that. So Vietnam was going strong. I fully expected to be drafted, getting ready for it. Okay, they missed me because of the lottery. I've never been sorry that they missed me. As a matter of fact, by the time it got to that point, I was starting to see how corrupt our government was, and while a higher purpose might be worth dying for, the government under which we lived was not, in my mind, a higher purpose, and my own father came to believe the same thing. So now we find ourselves in this situation, and that's where that song came in. And it's up on the, like I say, listen to it. Whether you come to the Patreon channel, listen to it, or just find it on YouTube, you can find it, Tell My Father. And I put one rendition over there. Attached to this one, I'm going to add another one, another take of it by the choir from the men's choir or the young men's choir. I mean, these guys are the ages of those who are sucked up in a draft and sent over to be killed and to kill others, which makes it all the more poignant. It's from the young men's choir at University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire, I believe. I'll put it down there. I'll tell you, that's what will really get you, is to look at these young boys, not even close to being fully developed emotionally or morally, singing a song like this. And this kind of stuff gets ingrained in people, especially young men. Ooh, wow, this is so, I will be remembered. This is so honorable. This is, wow. Tell my father I died like a man, and I'll see him again. And listen to it. If you don't cry, you have no soul. I don't mean that. I'm not making a determination on your soul. That was a flip comment. When they talk about it, I feel, let me skip ahead and just bring us to the real point. Thank you, Pastor. Yeah, then we'll pass the plate. They are bringing us to war. I am convinced of that. I think many of you are convinced of that as well. And when they do that, I fully expect them to reinstitute a draft. But they still have selective service. When I have a son about to turn 18, he's going to within, I forget, sometime within a month before and after, he has to go register with the selective service. Why? Well, we don't have a war going on. Okay. Well, so we know who we've got out there in case we need to call them in to go fight our war. The war that we're starting, and the war that we want, and the war to make us money, and don't you worry about it because you're just a little plebe. You're not worth anything. You are down here on the bottom. You are simply the ones that we depend on keep working and paying taxes so that we can fund our wars and support all the illegals coming into our country. Okay, so you keep at it and don't question us. Sometimes I'm accused of being too calm at things, and I'm trying to retain my calm over this, but it gets hard. So they are going to, and they still have the selective service intact, and I think they will use it. First off, they're going to start sending out stuff like this. Wait for it in a year or two. Well, we might have to. We need to be able to defend ourselves in case we're in a war with Russia. In case Vladimir comes over here himself on a boat and attacks us and makes us, wants to make us speak Russian. Hang on half a second. So fully expect this to kind of happen with things like this. Well, we might need to, and then somebody will come out, Jean-Pierre, whatever her name is. Oh, no, 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 we're not going to do it. But they're testing it. And they keep going like this. Unless something changes at this next election, fully expect this to keep on going. And then, and as somebody said, and somebody who has a lot of knowledge about the military made a statement, they don't think they could ever do it logistically. I have my doubts about that. I'm not a military person, so I hesitate to argue with anybody with a lot of military experience about anything like this. But I would just point this out. Let me just say that I don't have faith that they wouldn't or couldn't. We live in a different time. Okay, all they have to do. We live in an advancing technological time, with technology and with AI and all that. They don't have to send somebody, send the letters out, greetings from the President of the United States. They don't have to do it. They don't have to come to your door. There's all sorts of ways they can force people into conscription. All sorts of ways. And so I would suggest that you not rely on the hope that it won't happen. As a matter of fact, like so much on the preparedness side, like so much in preparedness, and on the other side, when we're trying to get this country steered back in the right direction, we need to fight these things. We need to assume the worst so that we can prepare for or fight the worst. Okay? And I think it's only smart to assume that this is going to happen so that we can prepare for it and so that we can keep it in our mind and we can resist this all the way along, that we hammer our representatives. And I'll talk more about how we can do this on the American Reversion channel. To be honest, the people on the Preparedness channel, a lot of them just don't like to talk about this. If you do like to talk about this, you need to come over with us on the American Reversion channel as well, because you will get a lot over there. So prepare. How do you prepare for this? Okay. Let me say up front, no, I'm not going to say that, because I'm going to caution you against saying anything as well. You can go to the Selective Service website. And let me preface this straight up. Why am I against a draft? I've said this before, but I'll make it clear here, and here again, it has nothing against the military or those who have served in the military. It has to do with the fact that conscription and a military draft implies ownership of the individual by the state. Okay? As long as they can make you do anything, I don't care if it's under the guise of national defense, national service, whatever like that. If they can force you to do anything, that is ownership. Okay? And what? With the threat of prison? If you don't go over there and try to kill those people and maybe get killed, you're going to prison. You tell me how that's not ownership, and you tell me how ownership is not slavery, and I don't believe in slavery. If there was a good enough threat and our country was run properly to where people had a proper patriotism, they wouldn't need a draft. Okay, they wouldn't need it. You know where Samuel Johnson, if you're familiar with Johnson, very famous philosopher, writer, or whatever in England in the 1700s, made the statement that patriotism is the final refuge of the scoundrel. Now, that doesn't mean proper patriotism. He was referring to a particular person, and I forget who it was, and it was a false patriotism. Patriotism, the word patriotism comes from, what does it come from? Patrios, meaning from the fathers. It was Latin. And then patriot, something more, meaning countryman. Okay, kind of like that. It is not, but we have come to see it more as an overarching love for one's country. That was not the original meaning of the word, but we have come, patriotism. I name my country or my company Patriot this or Patriot that or Patriot supplies or Patriot. You know what? You know what the effect of that is? People buy it. You name yourself Patriot. If I wanted a million viewers, I should probably rename this Patriot Preparedness. Oh my gosh, I would get so many people signed up on, but you know what I'd be? That's pandering, and no, that's pandering. How many businesses do you know named Patriot? And how many people do you know will go with them called Patriot? How many T-shirts do you see where it says Patriot on it? And ask the people who say that, what does that mean? What does that mean? Does that mean your loyalty to, well, that means loyalty to my country. Really? So is it loyalty to whatever your country does? Anything your country does? Well, you're going to get some really interesting answers. And I would say distinguish between your country and the country's government, if you can. It will be very, very difficult. And we have had experiences in the past where people said, well, I did it for my country, and we did not accept that. I was just following orders, right? Be very careful. So here's where this is coming. What I suggest you do is you look and go to the selective service. First off, determine what you think about this. Do you think that the government, don't forget about the country, do you think that this government should have a right to come in and force your sons, daughters, grandsons, granddaughters to leave their families, leave their jobs, leave their loved ones, leave their futures behind, potentially never come back or never come back whole, mentally or physically, just because they want to fight a war for profit, for the multinationals, okay? Bill Gates needs more money. El Presidente needs more money. Hunter needs more money. Okay, that's where this is going. You decide what you think about it, and then you decide whether or not you will go along with it. And then I would suggest this: go to the Selective Service website. I'm sure they have one. I'm sure it's extensive. I'm sure that it'll tell you all the wonderful reasons that they're important, And you will find on there somewhere a list of exemptions. This is how to do it legally, okay? How to do it legally. I always suggest people try to do something legally. That's the resistance part before you get to rebellion. And see what's in there and see how your kids, grandkids, whatever fit in there, or how they can fit in there. Listen to what I say. How can they fit into those categories of exemptions? Do that. Okay. And I would think that we're far past the, that's not, you've heard these idiots all the time talking about, they call Rush Limbaugh draft dodger, they call it, hey, if you don't believe in something and you don't want to go and there's a legal reason for you not to do it, you tell me what's wrong with that. That you're following your moral compass, follow your moral compass. And then if you can't find an exemption like that, then you have to decide what you want to do. Okay. But I can't, say what you should do. I'm not going to say what I will do, but I think you understand where I stand on this, right? In any case, get ready for a draft. How am I doing? Oh man, better get out of here. Get ready for a draft, because I think it's not coming in 6 months, but I think it's coming, and I think you'll start to hear, and I could be wrong. I could be wrong. I understand it, but we anticipate what we think might come. Not to anticipate and plan for what we think might come is simply stupid. So think about it. Remember that we prepare well today in order to live well tomorrow, and preparing well means thinking about what could happen and starting to make a plan. And on the political side, American reversion, remember that we need to work against the things that we don't believe in and work for the things we do believe in, because America needs a reversion, and it needs all of us to be a part of it. You all have a good day. God bless you all. Stay safe, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.